waits for some help. Finds Duffield. She's good for right there. Duffield knocks it down and points to the crowd.
It's a huge difference. DJ Steele's amazing. He hits my Beaver-like music and it's great. He really sets the tones for the game, so it's really fun to have music around.
Williams throws it into White, loses possession. Isaac White, first time he's been out with speed on the ball. And one! Isaac White! Two figures before three-quarter time! Well, that'll help.
Boom! Tevin Jackson with a one-handed putback.
Instant energy. It's the phrase I'd use. Kind of gets you up and about. Yeah. You definitely feel it if you go to stadiums and there's no music, no vibes. It's a dull environment, hard to get up. But here at the Hot House, with DJ Steele at the helm, we're up and about.
Absolutely, the vibe goes up through the roof immediately. Old classics throughout the warm up. We love it.
We love it all.
You name it.
We love it all.
Steele's got it.
Yeah.
So, vibes through the roof immediately, and get this going. So.
Hi, Steve here, aka DJ Steele. In this video I'm going to talk about a very specific type of DJing. I've been DJing for quite a long time and I started out DJing at raves, nightclubs. Over the years I've DJed at a lot of different kinds of events. Parties, corporate events, radio shows, boat cruises, weddings, school events. There was a time when I probably would have told you I've done about every kind of DJing you can, but I hadn't done sporting events. And in this video I'm going to be talking about DJing basketball games and other sporting events. Now I've been the resident DJ for the Rockingham Flames in Western Australia's NBL1 Basketball League, and I've been doing that for about 6 years now. Now as a DJ for a sporting event, it's very different from any kind of DJing I've done previously. There are quite a few things that make it fairly unique. There are quite a few things that make it quite difficult, but at the same time it's one of the most enjoyable types of DJing that I've done. I absolutely love doing it. Now, I'm preparing this video for the benefit of anyone who might find themselves in a position where they need to be a DJ for a basketball game, and what I talk about will apply a lot to other sports as well. If you're someone who's an experienced DJ but you haven't done sporting events, this video could help you. If you're someone who's never DJed before, any kind of DJing, this could help you as well. Even if you have been DJing basketball games for a while, I often go to games of other teams, and when I'm there, I learn a lot just from seeing what other DJs do and picking up tips. And of course, DJs who know me personally know that if they see me at one of their games, they know I'm taking some mental notes and getting some ideas. Now, when you're DJing for sporting events, it's not absolutely essential to know a lot about the sport you're DJing for, but it certainly helps a lot. So for example, if you're going to be DJing basketball games, having at least a basic knowledge of the rules of basketball and what's happening in the games can help you quite a bit. For example, in a basketball game, often players will go to the free throw line, shoot some free throws, and during that time, a DJ would normally be expected to stop the music. And if you know that, if you know some of the basic rules, then that means you won't need someone else telling you, hey, now it's time to stop the music. You can be on top of things yourself. And the more you know about the way the game works and what's happening in the game, the easier it is for you to effectively match your music to what's happening in the game. It can also really help you to choose the right music at the right time to motivate the crowd, motivate the players, and really make the game night something special. Now, different venues, different teams, they have different ways of doing things. But typically, as a DJ, you would be given a run sheet or some kind of guide to what happens during the night. In the NBL1 Basketball League, for example, it's standard that 5 minutes before a game starts, the players from both teams will be introduced as they come out on the court. As a DJ, that might be a time when you're required to play a particular dramatic entrance song for the home crowd as their fans cheer them when they make their way onto the court. After that, We have a welcome to country and then a national anthem, which might be sung by a live performer, but if not, then the DJ would be required to play that national anthem. Then you might play a bit of music for the next 5 minutes to build up the mood before the game starts. During a game, of course, you're playing music to build the energy and pump up the crowd, and I'll talk a lot more about music recommendations later on. There could be certain points during the game where you as a DJ might need to play certain music or certain sounds during contests that happen during breaks in the game. You might need to play music for dancers. You might, at the end of the game, be required to play a victory song if the home team wins. And it's important to remember that as a DJ for a basketball event, you're generally working as part of a team off the court. You would typically be working with a courtside announcer, a person who goes around with a microphone, hyping up the crowd, getting them to cheer for the home team. You may also be working with other people like dancers or cheerleaders and other people that are running competitions. So you're part of a team off the court that's supporting the team that's on the court.
3, 2, 1, lights out, let's go, Rocco! Welcome to your Eureka's Hockey and Praise. Number 1, thanks to Ultra Print and Marketing, Isaac West. Number 2, that's the Last Mechanics, Cameron Groove. Number 3, Victor Super Western TC, Ryan Godfrey.
Now, different stadiums as well may have different setups available for the DJ. You might have a speaker system that goes through the whole stadium, which you can just plug in, provides great sound to everyone there. Some places might have sound that's really good where the crowd is in the stands, but might not be as easy to hear where the DJ is. And DJ might have different visibility at different venues as well. Some places you might have a really good view of what's happening in the game, other places not so much. I've even been to some places where instead of a sound system in the stadium, they just have a set of speakers right where the DJ is, and that sends sound out to the whole court. So things can vary. You work with what you've got, but it can be very worthwhile. If you're DJing at a location for the first time, get there early so you can really scope things out and familiarise yourself with what you're going to be working with. Now, as far as equipment goes, one thing I will not do in this video is I won't tell you that you should be using particular gear. I won't tell you there are certain brands you should be using. What I will do is I'll give you certain tips on things you can do while you're DJing a game, and those tips might refer to certain features. That could be a consideration when you're deciding what gear to get for yourself. Ultimately though, the best gear for you is gear that you feel comfortable using, which has the features you need. The gear that I use is the best gear for me. It might not be the best gear for you. And I know DJs who do a fantastic job of DJing basketball games using equipment that's very different from what I use. Now, having said that, let's have a look at the gear that I do use. This is basically the same sort of gear that I use when I'm DJing basketball games. And there are three main components to what I use. One is a little external mixer here. Now, you don't necessarily have to have one of these, but I do find there are benefits having one. Most DJ decks can connect directly into a sound system, and if you had a stadium sound system, you could have a cable going from your DJ deck straight to a sound system. But I do find that there are two main benefits to having my sound running through an external mixer instead. One is the sound quality, because even a little mixer like this often has better quality preamp than what's typically built into your DJ deck. Sometimes that doesn't make a difference, but other times it can make a huge difference. And there's been times when I've had my DJ deck connected directly into a sound system where the sound quality really wasn't very good, but then when I tried it through external mixer, it sounded much better, much clearer. Another big benefit of going through an external mixer like this is it gives you a little bit more flexibility, a bit more room to move as far as volumes. Especially because when you're plugging into a stadium sound system, Often you're plugging into an input which is meant for microphones, not line gear like this. And that will mean that your sound will be coming through very, very loud. And you might have to have the volume on your DJ deck turned right down where it's almost completely off, and that really doesn't give you much room to turn the volume up and down as needed. If you're going through an external mixer instead, then that gives you a lot more room to move when you need to adjust the volume up and down. I also use a tablet, and I use this for samples in the game. Now, I originally was just using the features of my DJ gear to drop in samples during the game, and a lot of DJ gear like this does have basic sampler functionality, but I wanted a bit more than that. I did consider getting a hardware sampler, but I couldn't really find anything with all the features that I wanted that didn't also have a whole lot of features I don't need that made it really expensive. So for example, I could get a Pioneer DJS 1000 and would have all the features I needed, but I don't really want to pay more than $2,000 just for dropping some samples in the game. Eventually what I did find is an app called Koala. This app allows you to load in samples, and samples can either be played as one-shots where you just press the button and they play. You can also set them up as loops, so they keep on playing until you stop them. Now, one of the fantastic things about this app is that it's free. It's a fantastic app that allows me to have samples in a few different banks. So during the game, I might play samples when one of the home players scores a shot. Maybe sometimes I might play samples when players from the opposing team miss a free throw. And various other sounds as well, like loops when we're trying to get the crowd to join in doing a chant on defense, or a let's go Rocco sort of chants. So it gives me a lot of options there, and because it's separate from my deck, I can have that sitting to the side and just quickly press keys for samples when I need them. Now, I would love it if I had all of this with hardware buttons rather than using a touchscreen, but as I said, I haven't been able to find something like that that isn't hugely expensive, mostly because hardware samplers are typically made with live music production in mind. People actually want to make music, and I'm not making music, I just want to trigger a few sounds. So the sort of hardware samplers that are out there are not really suitable for my requirements. This suits me perfectly though. Now, the DJ deck I use is a Denon Prime 4. When I first started doing the games, I was using a Denon Prime 2, which is a great deck, but after a while I decided that I really wanted more than 2 channels. And I find that's really useful because I can use my 2 main channels for the main songs that I'm playing, the songs that I'm switching between, have one song playing and load up the next song ready to go. But the 2 extra channels, we have dancers at our games, and during halftime they come out and do a show. During quarter times, sometimes they'll have the kids come out on the court with the dancers and do a dance off, and each time the referee calls a timeout, the dancers come out and do a short little routine. And for each of those occasions, I need to have the dancers' next music ready to go. So when the referee blows a whistle and signals timeout, I've got to be ready for that. And on the 3rd channel, I always keep the dancers' next music ready to go. And 4th channel, I have that available for other things that I need to play during the game as well, such as sponsor shoutouts. So you can do games just fine with 2 channels, and I did for the first couple of seasons that I did it, but having extra channels gives me a lot more flexibility. Now I'm going to talk about some of the other functionality you've got as well, and different DJs use different setups. Some DJs use just a laptop. A lot of DJs at games will use a laptop with a controller. I prefer a standalone system without a laptop, and some DJs of course use the traditional mixer and 2 decks setup, which I occasionally do myself. Now, of course, music is an important part of why you're there as a DJ. And one really important thing is preparation. I spend a lot of time before a game preparing my music, organizing music into playlists. The more time I spend thinking about it beforehand, the less time I have to spend thinking about it during the middle of a game in the heat of a moment when I might be a bit too busy to spend a lot of time thinking about, what am I going to play next? So I have playlists with everything all set up, and I don't have to stick to that rigidly, but it makes it real easy when I'm playing a song and now I can look at my list and that's what I'll play next. That's what I'll play next. That's what I'll play next. So it does help to be organized and to put in a fair bit of planning beforehand. Now, as for the type of music, if you're DJing in a nightclub, you're probably going to have a lot of people there who are into the same sort of music, so that's great. But DJing a basketball or a sporting event, in some respects, is a bit more like DJing a wedding, where you get a very diverse crowd. At a basketball game, I'm going to have hundreds of people there who all love basketball, but they could have very different music tastes. I'll get some people there who love hip hop, some people who love house, some who like rock or pop, some people who like old music, some people who like new music. So I play a mixture. I cater to a wide variety of tastes. If I played nothing but hip hop all night, I'm sure there would be some people who would be very happy with that, but a lot of people probably wouldn't be. So I vary the music, and I guess it's a pretty good gauge of how you're doing when you look around, you see people in their seats sort of dancing away to songs, or players on the player bench getting into it, singing along. Just like most gigs, it's not too hard to tell if people are really getting into what you're playing. But more importantly, I frequently get people coming up at the end of the night saying, hey, I really like the music you play. Even fans from the opposing team who are visiting will often come up and tell me, wow, I really like the music, it adds to the enjoyment of the night, which is why you're there. Now, I tend to have playlists set up for a lot of purposes. I have a playlist that's set up for games at certain parts of the night, pre-game songs, victory songs, games come out on the middle of the court. So for example, in this clip here, you can see the home team coming out on the court, the players being introduced, and I'm playing the same song that I play every week when the home team comes out. And I don't play that song from the start because this song has got quite a long build up. You notice that I'm playing it just from the part where it goes, so light it up, up, up. And I use a cue point so I can play it right from that part. I'm going to talk a lot about the importance of cue points a little later on. But in my playlist, I have quite a few playlists set up for different purposes. I mentioned the importance of variety, for example. So one thing that I have is I DJ for the Flames. When you think about it, there are a lot of songs that are about flames and fire and heat. And so I've made a playlist of songs like that. And one important thing I should mention is that during the games, I make sure music is up-tempo, energetic. So before a game, I might be playing a bit of slower hip-hop or something like that. Not during a game though. During the actual game, I typically don't play anything less than about 100 beats a minute. I keep the tempo up, keep the energy up. That gets a crowd energetic. When they get energetic, it pumps up the players as well. So keep the tempo up, keep the energy up during the game. With a lot of my playlists, you can see here that I've got a main playlist and a rotate playlist. That's just a personal thing for me, but I have a main playlist where I put in songs that are standard ones that I play at pretty much every game. So for the Flames, I'll often drop in songs like Firestarter, Just Like Fire, Spark the Fire. I'll also have another folder of songs that are similarly suitable, but I might not play them as much. And those are ones that I will rotate through. And often each week, I'll go through and get the songs that I just played last game, and I'll move them down the bottom of the list, so it might be a little while before I play them again. That way I'm keeping things fresh, and each game I'm playing songs that I haven't played for a while. But I also have playlists for different styles. I've got a similar playlist for R&B. I mean, that's a fairly broad category. In there I've got hip hop and all these sort of urban genres, and again I've got a main category for the songs that I play a lot, and a category I rotate through with a lot of songs. And when I'm going through a game, I can drop in a song, and then when I need to change it, I can move on to the next one. I've got a similar category for pop. I've got a similar category for club, for rock music. So in each given genre, I can easily rotate through, so I'm not playing the same music all the time. But on the other hand, there are certain songs that I do play a lot that the crowd is familiar with. The fans know that I'm going to be playing certain songs. And I might even sometimes be DJing a game where it's not close. The home team's got a big lead, and the team I DJ for is pretty good, so that happens a fair bit. And during those sort of situations, I've got my cruise playlist where I play games that are not quite as energetic, just a little bit more casual and laid back. So still something the crowd's going to enjoy, but not necessarily the real pump up, get behind your team sort of tunes. Now, when we look at these playlists, I did mention cue points before, which I think is important. So if I load up one of these songs, for example, so you can see there's a cue point there, so I can go straight to that particular part of the song. So when I'm playing the song, I'm not starting right at the beginning of a big long intro. Instead, I'm dropping it in at the part of the song where it really has a bit of impact. And often with songs, I'll have several cue points during the song. So quite often with certain songs, I might have, so these songs you can all see cue points in there, but this particular one, there's multiple cue points. And the reason for that is that during a game, I'm often needing to stop the music. Maybe there's free throws or some other thing in the game that means that I've got to stop the music. And when I'm playing the music, and if I've got to suddenly stop it, then when I'm resuming it, I'm not resuming the song halfway through a lyric or something like that. Instead, I can use a cue point to drop it right on the next chorus or something similar. I've got to stop it again. Even if I don't have cue points like that, then if I've got to stop a song like that, then see here that's kind of between beats. If I've got to pause a song for a moment, then I'll just quickly get it to maybe where the next bar starts. So when it resumes again, it sounds nice and clean. So things like that can just help things sound a little bit more clean when you're playing your music.
We're back over the house strikes. 14 comes up now for the Slumbers.
Now, a basketball game is divided into quarters, and as the second, third or fourth quarter are about to begin, often I'll play a song that has a breakdown that builds up to a point where the song kicks in, and I like to start the quarter on songs like that. One thing which I do is I've got a folder of songs like that have all got breakdowns that build up a bit of energy so the fans are ready to start cheering again when the play is underway again. And at a basketball game, there's a clock on display in the stadium which counts down until a quarter starts. And I look at that clock and I know that there's 40 seconds till the quarter starts, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, until that time when the ref blows a whistle and the ball's back in play again. So with many of those songs, I put in a cue point with exactly the number of seconds that the build-up begins before the track really kicks back in again. So for example, with a song like this, I can see 24 seconds, and then I look at the game clock, and when it counts down to 24 seconds, then I press that cue point, and then the song's building up for 24 seconds, and the players are getting ready to play again, the announcers on the microphone getting the crowd revved up again, and then it's timed, so right on the beginning of the quarter, and we're away. During a game, the announcer will often need to make announcements, or there may be times where you might want to make it so that voices can be heard a little bit easier over the microphone. Now, you can drop the volume when you do that, and it's a good idea to lower the volume when the announcer is talking, but one thing that makes it a lot easier is if you have instrumentals playing. So if I'm playing a song with lyrics behind the announcer, that makes it a little harder to hear what the announcer is saying. But if I'm playing instrumental, then you don't have dead silence behind the announcer talking. You still get a little bit of music, which just, again, keeps the energy going. And for quite a few years, I've had a folder of just instrumental music that I can be playing while the announcer's talking, just almost like a bit of a backing track to the announcer. And of course, in more recent years, DJ equipment comes with stems. If you're not sure what stems are, it's where the DJ gear is able to separate different parts of the song, so you can drop out the vocals, drop out the music or the bass or the melody, and isolate certain parts of the song. You can use that to silence the vocals in a song while the music itself is still playing, which means that you don't need to have an instrumental version of a song, and also you can just drop out the vocals and bring them back in. So for example, if I've got a bit of music playing and then the announcer's going to start talking, I can drop out the vocals, the music is still going, and so it's not dead silence again, but I'm also not having to completely mute the music. And whilst doing that, what I often do is if I don't know how long the announcer is going to be talking for, then I might decide to loop the music on the particular bit that I've silenced, or maybe just use the beat jump buttons to go back a little bit. And then once the announcer's finished talking, then I'm ready to bring the vocals back in. Now, during the time that I've been a game night DJ, there have been times when I've filled in for other teams as well. I'm a loyal Rockingham Flames DJ, as you can tell, but I've worn shirts of other teams as well when they've been short a DJ for a night. And sometimes I've also filled in as a courtside announcer of various teams. Now, I myself haven't yet needed to have a night off, but you never know when you might get sick or have something else pop up. So I've prepared a document which I've given copies of to people in the club, which has some essential information for anyone who might need to fill in for me on short notice. That includes a link to a folder where some of the essential songs are that I play, such as team entrance songs. It has a few basic notes on how to connect up to the stadium sound system, and also just some general notes on some of the things that I do during the night and the way I do things. Different clubs do things differently, and a DJ who's used to DJ for another club who might need to fill in for me might need a few little tips on the sort of things that our crowd is used to and the way we run our game night process. So it is good to be prepared and make sure that anyone who needs to fill in for you is also prepared. Hope all these tips have been useful for you, and if you're going to DJ a basketball game or another kind of sporting event, have an absolute blast, and I hope you'll be going into it feeling a little more comfortable, a little more prepared, more ready to have some fun.